The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning, breaking through Earth's normal communication channels like a stone through still water. At first, the technicians at the Global Communications Center thought it was a malfunction. The strange, rhythmic pulses didn't match any known human transmission pattern. Mark Wilson, the lead communications officer on duty, nearly spilled his coffee when his computer began translating the alien mathematics into readable text. His hands shook as he read the first message humanity had ever received from the stars. "Help, please. Our children are dying." Within an hour, the United Earth Defense Council chamber was filled with military leaders, scientists, and government officials from every major nation. The massive screens at the front of the room displayed the complete message, now fully decoded. The Lumini, a peaceful spacefaring race, had established a colony on a world they thought was safe. They were wrong. Their message described horrible creatures emerging from the planet's dense forests, taking their people one by one. The aliens' peaceful nature and physically fragile bodies left them helpless against the predators. Captain Jack Stone stood at the back of the chamber, his broad shoulders pressed against the wall as he listened to the debate rage on. At 45, he had spent more than half his life in space, commanding the UES Dauntless through countless missions. But this was different. This was first contact. "We can't risk human lives for an alien species we know nothing about." Admiral Peters slammed his fist on the table. "This could be a trap. If we don't help," Professor Adams countered, her voice steady, "we'll be announcing to the galaxy that humanity can't be counted on in a crisis. Is that really the first impression we want to make?" Jack pushed himself off the wall and stepped forward. The room fell silent as he walked to the center of the chamber. Everyone knew his reputation. The captain who had saved his crew from a solar storm by manually adjusting the shift shields, spending 6 hours in radiation that would have killed most people. "Permission to speak freely?" he asked, looking at the council chairman. The chairman nodded. "We're Deathworlders," Jack said, his voice filling the room. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Gravity that would crush most alien species, weather that switches from burning heat to freezing cold, predators that forced us to become smarter, faster, stronger." He pointed to the message on the screen. "These Lumini are dying because they never had to evolve like we did. But that's exactly why we need to help. What's the point of all our strength if we don't use it to protect others?" The chamber erupted in murmurs. Jack continued, "My crew on the Dauntless is trained for extreme conditions. We're the best choice for this mission. Let us answer their call." Dr. Lisa Cooper, the council's xenobiologist, spoke up. "The Lumini's physical description matches our theoretical models for species from low-gravity worlds. They're likely half our size, with brittle bones and minimal muscle mass. Captain Stone is right. They wouldn't stand a chance against serious predators." The chairman looked around the room, then at Jack. "And your crew? They'd volunteer for a mission that could very well be suicide." Jack smiled. "Sir, I had to tell them to wait outside. They're ready to board right now." The debate lasted another 2 hours, but Jack knew the outcome the moment he saw the chairman's slight nod. Humanity's first official act in galactic society would be to answer a cry for help. 6 hours later, Jack stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching Earth shrink in the viewscreen. His crew of 50 had been supplemented with a xenobiologist team and a squad of Marines. They carried enough supplies for a 6-month mission, though he hoped it wouldn't take that long. Course plotted to the coordinates provided in the Lumini message. "Sir," his navigator reported. "Estimated travel time at maximum safe speed, 12 days." Jack settled into his command chair, feeling the familiar hum of the engines through the deck plates. "Send a message to the Lumini colony. Help is coming. Hold on. Then take us out, best speed." The stars stretched into lines of light as the Dauntless jumped to faster-than-light travel. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could do when others needed their help. After 12 days in space, the UES Dauntless dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Lumini colony world. The planet below them looked peaceful enough. Vast blue oceans, green forests, and purple plains under twin yellow suns. Life signs, Captain Jack Stone asked, leaning forward in his command chair. Multiple clusters in the northern continent, replied Emma, the ship's sensor operator. One large group must be the colony. Smaller groups are moving through the forests. Those might be the predators. The Lumini responded to their arrival quickly. Their voice came through the ship's speakers, higher pitched than a human voice, and shaking with emotion. Thank the stars you came. Please hurry. We lost 3 more people yesterday. Jack ordered the ship to land near the colony. As they descended through the atmosphere, everyone noticed the difference. The planet's gravity was only 60% of Earth's, making the humans feel strangely light on their feet. The landing zone was a flat plain surrounded by strange trees with silver leaves. A group of Lumini waited nearby, and the humans got their first look at their new allies. The aliens were beautiful in an almost fragile way. They stood about 4 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Their large eyes took up most of their faces, and their bodies were thin and graceful. They moved carefully, as if afraid of breaking themselves. Dr. Cooper stepped forward first, following first contact protocols. We come in peace and friendship, she said, her words being translated by their communication devices. The Lumini leader moved forward too, then stopped suddenly. All the aliens seemed to freeze, staring at the humans with their large eyes growing even wider. Is something wrong? Jack asked, concerned. You're so big, the Lumini leader said. And dense. We can see the gravity of your bodies bending the light around you. How do you not break yourselves? Jack smiled gently, trying to appear less threatening. We come from a world with much stronger gravity. Our bodies evolved to be sturdy. The Lumini gathered closer, their fear giving way to fascination. They watched in amazement as the human crew unloaded their equipment, lifting boxes that would have taken 5 Lumini to move. Please, the Lumini leader said, introducing himself as first speaker Ray. Come see what we face. Inside the colony's main building, the humans watched recordings of the predator attacks. The creatures were unlike anything they had seen before, 6-legged hunters that moved in perfect coordination, using tactics that showed frightening intelligence. They were about the size of Earth wolves, but far more organized. We call them the Night Stalkers, Ray explained. They started appearing 3 months ago. We've tried everything. Barriers, sounds, lights. Nothing stops them. They wait until someone has to go out for maintenance or gathering. Then they strike. Jack watched the recordings carefully. They're pack hunters, he said. Like wolves from our world, but smarter. They're testing your defenses, learning your patterns. A scream from outside cut through the air. Everyone rushed to the windows. In the fading light of the twin suns, a group of night stalkers had appeared at the edge of the forest. Their scales shifted colors to match their surroundings, making them hard to track. They never come this early. Ray's voice shook with fear. They're testing us, Jack said, seeing how we'll react. He turned to his Marine squad leader. Non-lethal responses first. Let's show them we're not easy prey. The Marines moved with practiced speed, setting up sonic deterrents. The sound they produced was carefully chosen to be uncomfortable, but not harmful. The night stalkers retreated, but slowly, watching the humans with intelligent eyes. Amazing, Ray said, looking at the calm humans. You show no fear. Oh, we feel fear, Jack corrected him. We've just learned to use it. Fear keeps you alert, keeps you thinking. He put a reassuring hand on Ray's shoulder, careful to be gentle. We'll help you set up better defenses, and we'll figure out why these creatures suddenly became aggressive. As night fell, the humans set up their base camp next to the Lumini colony. The night stalkers could be heard calling to each other in the darkness, their cries unlike anything on Earth. The real test would come soon, and both humans and Lumini knew it. The predators were watching, learning, planning. But for the first time since the attacks began, the Lumini felt hope. Their new allies might look terrifying, but that terrifying strength was now their shield. The next 3 days were busy for the human team. They set up monitoring stations around the colony, studied the Night Stalkers' behavior, and began training the Lumini in basic defense techniques. Lieutenant Anna Reed, the team's chief security officer, spent hours watching the predators through high-powered cameras. She noticed something others had missed. "Captain," she called Jack over to her screen one morning. "Look at this pattern. They're not just hunting randomly. They're herding their prey." Jack watched the recording of a Night Stalker pack moving through the forest. 2 members would break away from the group, circle around, and drive smaller animals toward the others. It was complex behavior that showed real intelligence. "Like a wolf pack?" he asked. "Smarter," Anna replied. "Earth wolves are clever, but these creatures use advanced tactics. They even set traps." Dr. Tom Walker, their wildlife expert, joined them with his own findings. He had been studying samples of fur and scale fragments they'd found near the colony. "Their biology is fascinating," he said, showing them his data. "Their scales can change color like Earth's chameleons, but they also have heat-sensing organs. They can track prey by body temperature." The Lumini gathered around, curious but keeping a safe distance from the humans. They still weren't used to being near such large, strong beings. "We don't understand," Ray said. "If they're so dangerous, why are you studying them? Shouldn't we just destroy them?" Jack shook his head. "On Earth, we learned the hard way that killing predators can damage entire ecosystems. We need to understand them first. There might be a better solution." As if to test their patience, the Night Stalkers attacked again that evening. This time, they tried a new tactic. One group made noise in the forest to draw attention, while another group snuck toward the colony's water processing unit. But Anna had predicted something like this. She had positioned Marines with stun weapons around key points. When the Night Stalkers appeared, they were met with bright lights and sonic pulses that confused their senses. The predators retreated, but not before the humans learned more about their behavior. The way they adapted to the defense and tried a new approach showed they could learn quickly. "They're testing us," Anna said during the team meeting later that night. "Learning our strengths and weaknesses, just like we're studying them." Jack looked at the tired faces around him. His crew had been working nonstop, but they showed no signs of giving up. Even in the lower gravity, which made the Lumini feel comfortable, the humans kept pushing themselves to work harder. "What have we learned?" he asked the group. Dr. Walker pulled up his latest findings on the screen. "They're native to this planet, but they normally stay deep in the forests. Something drove them to the colony area recently. I think," he paused, checking his data again, "I think they're protecting something." "Protecting what?" Ray asked. "We're not sure yet," Dr. Walker replied. "But their behavior changed about 3 months ago. That's when the attacks started. Something must have happened then." Anna stood up and walked to the map display. "I have an idea," she said. "On Earth, many predators become more aggressive when their young are threatened. What if we're too close to their breeding grounds?" The room went quiet as everyone considered this. If they were dealing with parents protecting their young, that would explain the intelligence and determination behind the attacks. "Tomorrow," Jack decided, "we'll send out drones to map the whole area. If there's a breeding ground nearby, we'll find it. And maybe then we can find a way to help both species live safely." The Lumini looked confused. First Speaker Ray spoke up. "You want to help the creatures that are killing us." "Back on Earth," Jack explained patiently, "we learned that the best solutions help everyone. If we can find a way to protect both your people and their young, the attacks might stop on their own." As the meeting ended, the Night Stalkers' calls echoed from the forest. But now, listening with new understanding, the humans heard something different in those sounds. They weren't just hunting calls. They were warnings, protecting something precious. The question was, Could they find a solution before more lives were lost on either side? The drones flew out at dawn, mapping the forest around the colony. Captain Jack Stone and his team watched the feeds from their command center, looking for signs of the Night Stalkers' breeding grounds. The morning passed quietly, almost peacefully. Then everything went wrong at once. One of the drones crashed after hitting an unseen barrier in the air. Another stopped working for no clear reason. And then the emergency alarm rang through the colony. "Captain." It was Emma's voice over the radio. "3 Lumini engineers are trapped outside the western wall. Their repair vehicle broke down, and the Night Stalkers are closing in." Jack grabbed his gear and ran for the exit, with Lieutenant Anna Reed and 4 Marines right behind him. In the low gravity, each step carried them further than normal, but they had trained for this. They found the Lumini huddled behind their broken vehicle. A pack of 12 Night Stalkers circled them, moving closer with each pass. The predator's scales shifted colors to match the ground and plants around them, making them hard to track. "Defensive circle," Jack ordered. The humans surrounded the Lumini, their backs to the frightened aliens. "Stay calm," he told the engineers. "We've got you." The Night Stalkers attacked from 3 directions at once. They moved like flowing water, their 6 legs carrying them in smooth, fast motions. Their teeth gleamed in the sunlight. The Marines fired their stun weapons, but the creatures were ready. They dodged most of the shots, showing they had learned from previous encounters. 2 of them leaped over the humans, trying to reach the Lumini. Jack caught one in midair, the impact knocking him down. Even with his earth-bred strength, he struggled with the creature. Its scales were rough like sandpaper, and its muscles were incredibly strong. Anna tackled the other one, rolling with it in the dirt. The Night Stalker's claws cut through her armor, drawing blood, but she held on. The other Marines kept the rest of the pack back with their weapons and sonic devices. The Night Stalker fighting Jack suddenly went limp, playing dead. He almost fell for it, but his earth instincts warned him in time. When the creature tried to strike again, he was ready. He pinned it down firmly but carefully. "I've got one," he shouted. "Get ready to." The creature in his arms let out a high-pitched sound that hurt their ears. The whole pack froze, then backed away slowly. They moved as one unit, their eyes never leaving their captured member. "They're not running," Anna noticed, holding her bleeding arm. "They're waiting." Jack studied the Night Stalker he held. Up close, he could see the intelligence in its eyes. It wasn't fighting anymore, but it wasn't afraid either. It was thinking. "Dr. Walker," he called over the radio. "I have a captured specimen. Bringing it in for study. Set up the reinforced cage." The Night Stalkers followed them all the way back to the colony, keeping their distance but staying visible. It was new behavior. Usually, they disappeared when their attacks failed. In the medical bay, Dr. Walker treated Anna's wounds while other humans took care of minor injuries. The Lumini watched in amazement as the injured humans joked and laughed, even while getting stitches. "You could have died," Ray said, his voice shaking. "Those claws could have killed you." "Part of being a Deathworlder," Anna replied with a smile, wincing as her wound was cleaned. "We're hard to kill, and we heal fast." In the research lab, Dr. Walker examined their captured Night Stalker. The creature watched everything they did with clear interest. It even seemed to understand it wasn't going to be harmed, becoming calmer as they took scans and samples. "Captain," Dr. Walker called excitedly, "you need to see this. The scan shows something incredible. This one is carrying eggs. We didn't just capture any Night Stalker. We caught a mother protecting her future children." Jack looked at the creature with new understanding. No wonder the pack hadn't run away. They were protecting one of their own, just like his team had protected the Lumini. The question now was, what would they do with this new information, and how would the other Night Stalkers respond? Dr. Tom Walker hadn't slept in 24 hours, but he couldn't stop working. The captured Night Stalker was teaching them more than they had learned in days of observation. "Look at this," he said to Captain Jack Stone, pointing to his screens. Their scales don't just change color, they can send complex light patterns across them. It's a language. The Night Stalker in the reinforced cage watched them carefully. Every few hours, other pack members would come to the edge of the forest and flash their scales in patterns. The captured one would answer back. They're talking to each other, Jack realized. Can we decode it? Already working on it, Tom replied. But that's not the most interesting part. He pulled up a map on another screen. Remember how their attack started 3 months ago? Well, look what the colony built then. The map showed a new water processing plant. It had been built right next to a series of underground caves. Those caves, Tom explained, are their breeding grounds. The vibrations from the plant are disturbing their eggs. They're not attacking out of hatred. They're trying to protect their children. Jack rubbed his tired eyes. So the Lumini accidentally built right on top of a Night Stalker nursery. No wonder they're so aggressive. Lieutenant Anna Reed joined them, her arm still bandaged, but healing quickly. The pack's getting more active, she reported. They're gathering in larger numbers at the forest edge. They want their friend back, Jack said, watching the captured Night Stalker. The creature had been calm and cooperative, letting them take scans and samples without fighting. It seemed to understand they meant no harm. First Speaker Ray entered the lab, moving carefully around the humans as always. "You look troubled, Captain," he said. "Ray, we need to talk about moving the water plant," Jack said directly. "It's built over the Night Stalker's breeding grounds. That's why they're attacking." The Lumini leader's large eyes widened further. "Move the plant. But that's impossible. We need it for the colony's survival. And they need those caves for their species' survival," Tom added gently. "There must be a way to help both sides." As they talked, the captured Night Stalker suddenly became agitated. Its scales flashed rapidly, and answering flashes came from the forest. Anna rushed to the window. "Captain, you need to see this," she called. Outside, the entire pack had emerged from the forest. But instead of attacking, they sat in a circle just beyond the colony's defenses. Their scales created beautiful patterns of light that rippled through the group. Tom's computers beeped as they recorded and analyzed the patterns. "It's some kind of meeting," he said. "They're all communicating at once." Jack made a decision. "We need to show trust," he said. "Tom, help me with the cage." "Captain." Anna started to protest, but Jack held up his hand. "Sometimes the best way to make peace is to take the first risk," he said. Carefully, they opened the cage. The Night Stalker stepped out slowly, its eyes fixed on Jack. Then, to everyone's surprise, it gently pressed its head against his hand before running to join its pack. The light patterns changed. Tom's computer worked to translate the basic meanings. "They're not angry," he said in wonder. "They're grateful. And there's something else. They're showing us images of another location, a better place for their eggs. They want our help to move their eggs." Anna asked. Jack smiled. "Of course. They've seen we're strong enough to help, and smart enough to understand their problem. They're not just intelligent. They're willing to find a peaceful solution." Ray watched all this with amazement. "You understand them so well," he said to Jack. "How?" "Because we're not so different," Jack replied. "On Earth, we learned that the fiercest creatures are often the ones who care most deeply about protecting their families. These Night Stalkers don't want a war. They just want their children to be safe." The light show continued outside, creating patterns that seemed almost hopeful. A new understanding was forming between three very different species, and with it, the chance for a peaceful solution that would help everyone. Moving hundreds of Night Stalker eggs was not going to be easy. The caves under the water plant went deep into the ground, and each egg needed special care. But the humans had a plan. "It's like moving a bee colony back on Earth," Tom explained to the group. "We need to be gentle and keep the eggs at the right temperature." The Night Stalkers had shown them a better location, a network of caves 10 miles away from the colony. These caves were deeper and naturally warmer, perfect for their eggs. Now they just had to move them. Captain Jack Stone divided his team into 3 groups. One would carefully remove the eggs, another would transport them, and the third would protect everyone during the move. The Lumini wanted to help too, their small hands perfect for handling the delicate eggs. They started at dawn. The Night Stalkers watched nervously as humans entered their breeding caves. Each egg was about the size of a football, with a soft, leathery shell that changed color like the adult Night Stalker's scales. "Remarkable," Tom said, scanning the eggs. "They're all connected. When one egg changes color, the others respond. They're communicating even before hatching." The work was slow and careful. The humans used their strength to clear paths and move heavy rocks, while the Lumini gently carried eggs to special containers. The Night Stalkers followed along, their scales flashing messages that Tom's computer now partly understood. "They're worried," he translated, "but also hopeful." Everything was going well until the weather suddenly changed. One of the planet's 2 suns disappeared behind dark clouds, and the temperature dropped quickly. "Storm coming," Anna shouted from her lookout position. "A big one." The Night Stalkers became agitated. Their scales flashed warning patterns. They knew this kind of storm was dangerous. "The eggs can't get cold," Tom warned. "They need constant warmth." Jack made a quick decision. "Everyone inside the transport vehicles," he ordered. "We'll use our body heat to keep the eggs warm." The storm hit hard. Wind howled around them, and strange purple lightning lit up the sky. The vehicles swayed in the powerful gusts. Inside, humans pressed close to the egg containers, sharing their natural body heat. "Deathworlders," Ray said with amazement, watching the humans work. "You're not just strong. You can survive anything." "Not just survive," Jack corrected him, checking the egg's temperature. "We adapt. We find ways to protect what matters." The storm raged for hours. The Night Stalkers couldn't help in the vehicles. They were cold-blooded and couldn't provide warmth, but they stayed close, their scales flashing encouragement and gratitude. Finally, the storm passed. When they checked the eggs, every single one was safe. The Night Stalkers' scales rippled with joy, creating beautiful patterns of light that danced across their bodies. The rest of the move went smoothly. The new caves were perfect, with natural heat vents that would keep the eggs warm. As the last egg was placed carefully in its new home, the Night Stalkers did something unexpected. The whole pack gathered around the humans and Lumini. Their scales began to flash in a complex pattern that repeated over and over. Tom's computer beeped as it translated. "It's a promise," he said, reading the screen. "They're saying they'll never attack the colony again. They're calling us friends." Jack smiled. "Makes sense. We helped protect their children. For them, that makes us part of their extended family." The Lumini watched in wonder as the Night Stalkers started teaching them their light language. Simple patterns at first. Greetings, warnings about weather, signs of friendship. "I don't understand," Ray said to Jack. "When we called for help, we thought you would come and fight for us. Instead, you found a way to make peace." "Fighting should always be the last option," Jack replied. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't standing your ground. It's finding a way to help everyone win." As they walked back to the colony under the light of 2 setting suns, the Night Stalkers escorted them, their scales glowing with patterns of friendship and protection. 3 very different species had learned to work together, each bringing their own strengths to solve a problem that could have ended in tragedy. 1 month after moving the Night Stalker eggs, the UES Dauntless prepared to leave the Lumini colony. The scene at the landing pad was very different from their first arrival. Lumini children played safely in the open fields, no longer afraid of attacks. Night Stalkers patrolled the colony's borders, their scales flashing friendly greetings to both humans and Lumini. The 2 species had learned to work together, sharing the planet in peace. "Look," Lieutenant Anna Reed said, pointing to a group of Lumini practicing with the Night Stalkers. The aliens were learning to flash light patterns with special devices that mimicked the Night Stalker's scale language. They're becoming real partners. Captain Jack Stone watched with satisfaction. The mission had succeeded in ways no one had expected. Not only was the colony safe, but they had helped create something new. A partnership between two very different species. Captain, first speaker Ray approached, followed by several Night Stalkers. The eggs are beginning to hatch in the new caves. Would you and your crew like to see before you leave? The human team followed Ray and the Night Stalkers to the new breeding grounds. The caves were warm and comfortable, filled with the soft light of bioluminescent plants that the Night Stalkers had brought from their old home. The first egg was already cracking, its shell changing colors rapidly. The adult Night Stalker's scales flickered with excitement, telling the story of how humans had helped save their children. Amazing, Dr. Tom Walker said, recording everything. The babies are born knowing the light language. They're already communicating. A small head poked through the shell, its scales shifting through rainbow colors as it saw the world for the first time. The baby Night Stalker wasn't afraid of the humans or Lumini. It had grown up feeling their warmth during the storm, learning they were friends before it even hatched. "We have something to show you," Ray said, leading them back to the colony. In the main square, a new building stood gleaming in the double sunlight. "This will be the Earth Embassy on our world. We want humans to stay here, to teach us and help us grow stronger." Jack smiled. "I'll send word to Earth. I'm sure many humans would love to come here and learn from both your peoples." The Night Stalker pack leader, they now knew her name was Bright Star in the light language, flashed a complex pattern that Tom's computer translated. "Our children will grow up knowing humans as friends. You are strong like us, but gentle like the Lumini. You bridge our worlds." As the human crew prepared to board their ship, Ray handed Jack a data crystal. "We've sent a message to other Lumini colonies," he said, telling them about Earth's Deathworlders. Not as dangerous creatures to fear, but as friends who use their strength to protect others. "That means a lot," Jack said. "But remember, you're stronger than you think. You just needed to learn a different kind of strength." The Night Stalkers lined up and created a stunning display of light patterns, a farewell show that lit up the evening sky. The patterns told their shared story, of fear turned to friendship, of problems solved through understanding instead of fighting. Anna, her arm now fully healed, looked at the scars from the Night Stalker's claws. "You know, when we first came here, I thought we'd be fighting monsters. Instead, we made new allies." "That's what humanity does best," Jack replied. "We don't just survive on our death world. We learn from it. And now we can help others learn too." As the Dauntless lifted off, they could see the colony below. Lumini and Night Stalkers stood together, their new friendship a beacon of hope for the galaxy. The humans had done more than save a colony. They had shown that being a Deathworlder didn't mean bringing death. It meant having the strength to protect life in all its forms. The ship turned toward Earth, carrying stories that would inspire other humans to reach for the stars. Not as conquerors or warriors, but as protectors and teachers, ready to help any aliens in need. And on the planet below, the first generation of Night Stalker hatchlings grew up learning 3 languages, their own light patterns, the Lumini speech, and the simple words of the strong, kind Deathworlders who had changed their world forever.